Okay, well, this is the start point for tour number 1. As you come along the A66 from Penrith, it's the first service station that you'll come to. Or I suppose you could stop a little bit further back at the Little Chef, but we're turning left on the A592 down towards Ullswater. We're going to be going down by the side of Ullswater, up Kirkston Pass. There we have it. This is where we come down to Ullswater. Having turned left just after the service station on the A66 and heading down on the 592, we've now come to the edge of Ullswater. Well, as we continue down, we're going to be going over Kirkston Pass, down the struggle into Ambleside, up towards Keswick, down through Borrowdale to Buttermere, and eventually ending at Braithwaite. Taking in some fantastic scenery in the area. Strange tale goes along with Ullswater. I don't know if they're ever going to do it, but there was talk of taking the water from Ullswater and pumping it to Manchester, because they're having difficulty, of course, keeping with the water. The trouble with that is you also have Ullswater steamers, but if they were to do that, then Ullswater steamers would go out of business, because the depth of the lake would go down so much that the steamers wouldn't be able to operate. Hasn't happened yet, has been talked about for years, mind. Just look at that. It's just glorious. A glorious landscape that just simply takes your breath away. Where better could you be on a day like today? Get yourself on this tour and experience these wonderful views in majestic scenery in a gorgeous part of the country. You won't be disappointed. just fabulous around here, you know. Absolutely fabulous. The reason for doing this first tour, you're going to be seeing some amazing views and sights and places. It'd be crazy not to come along this one and find out what it's all about. So, there we have Ullswater. An absolutely gorgeous expanse of water within 10 minutes of the M6. You just wouldn't know unless you turned left and came on the tour. Just down by the side of it. The little waves lapping in water that can only be described as bloody freezing. But there we are. Ullswater. How good is that? So we'll continue our quest. Off into the wild blue yonder. Now coming into the little village of Glenriddin. Now there's a lot of people that come here because not too far up there you find Helvellyn. But Glenriddin itself's got a lovely ambience about it. Right in the centre of Ullswater there's some nice tea rooms, gift shops, some guest houses to stay in where you could base yourself if you wish. I remember as a young boy actually buying a tea towel from a shop in Glenriddin from my grandmother. Off to the left we've got Ullswater steamers. That's where you can get yourself on. and go for a nice boat ride up Ullswater towards Peatley Bridge. On the left there you've got a nice tea room, and if you fancy going on a little boat, that's where you can hire them and experience Ullswater for yourself. A self-guided motorboat tour of Ullswater. This is where, as a young police cadet, we based ourselves. Just up that road there to the right, and from there we walked all the way up to Helvellyn. I've never forgotten it. Striding Edge, by God, it was Striding Edge alright. And the time that we went, it was covered in snow. And I don't know if you can see it, but that is the route to Helvellyn. In fact, there are people going up the little track up there now. And on the top, there's snow. Snow. That's how dedicated I am to show you this tour. There's snow on the top of the mountains. Having left the edge of Ullswater now and been through Glenridding and Patterdale, we're going to take ourselves up to Kirkstone Pass, which is an interesting ride in itself. Kirkstone Pass is one of those areas that, when we start to get snow in this country, it gets blocked. I've actually been up in the car where it's just been one lane and the snow has been taller on the sides of where they've cut through, was taller than the side of the car. And I think that was in 2011. (1,500 feet above sea level, Kirkstone Pass). What I'd like to know is who put those stone walls up on the side of mountains. What was the point of that? Well, I know what the point was. The point itself was to section off the fields so that they knew what belonged to who. But some of the steepness on the side of these hills, the incline on the side of some of these mountains and hills. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and thinking to yourself, ah, great, I've got to get myself up round the Kirkstone area. I'm going to climb some mountains and build some dry stone walls. Woohoo! Jesus. I don't know if you've ever seen dry stone wallers doing their work, but it takes forever. I think it takes a couple of days to do a metre, just 1 metre of wall. Picking the right stones, making sure they're all tied in together. And the miles and miles of dry stone walling in the Lake District. Well, it must have taken years. I suppose one of the good things is once it's done, it's done. Occasionally they do fall down, but once it's done, it's done. And it's been there for hundreds of years. But nobody, I can't find any information. I'll have to look a bit harder. Can't find any information on why these dry stone walls were built, how many people worked in doing the dry stone walling, and why. Right, we're off up Kirkstone Pass now. Nice twisty, windy road. When I get to the top, I'll pull in and I'll turn around and you can see the valley that leads you up to Kirkstone Pass. I reckon that's what it is. You see the stones on the side there? All those stones on the side of the hill. That's what all the grass around here was like. And so the dry stone wallers themselves didn't have to carry up or on trucks or pulled by donkeys or cows or whatever they did. It was already in the fields. And so they just gathered the stones into one place and just built the wall. Wonder who the first fella was, or the first person, doesn't have to be a fella. Wonder who the first guy or person or woman was to think, God, you see the stones in those fields? Let's build a wall. Let's build a wall indeed. And there we have the view. The valley that we've just come up from Ullswater, Patterdale, Glenriddin. And that's really what the Lake District is all about. It's a series of valleys with lakes and mountains, but some scenery that is simply there to take your breath away. Okay, let's continue. We're coming now to the top of Kirkstone Pass, where you can continue on to Windermere. We're not going to do that today. That'll be on another tour around the region. We're going to turn right down the struggle towards Ambleside. But on the left here you've got the Kirkstone Pass Inn, very popular stop-off point. Now you can see up there one of the slate quarries. In a short time, well, as we go around the tour, we're going to be actually seeing a slate mine. But that's one of the things that the lake is famous for, is the slate. There it is. There's the quarry. Again, I wonder who the first person was that dug into the side of there and went, hey, we can make a business out of this. Let's dig into the side of a hill. Nothing in this world is achieved without first a dream. Now, in that distance there, what you can see is Windermere. So you can see we're not too far from it. And if you wanted, when we get over to the struggle, you can turn left, which we're going to, and go through Ambleside down towards Windermere. I'll show you around Ambleside so you can have a look. But we are then going to continue up towards Keswick. But that's the reason that I've brought you this way. It's so you can see sights like that. And the sun has started to come out again. Everything's warming up. Now, you may be able to hear the screaming of the engine as I go down the struggle. Something of interest. About 5-6 years ago, a bus, probably using sat-nav, came down this, and you can see the width of the road. Isn't exactly the best thing in the world. And he came down this, a bus full of pensioners. And as he got further down, he found that his brakes wouldn't work anymore. Because the weight of the vehicle, the people inside, and it is constant braking. Look at that. How cool is that? Wow! So as we were coming down, or I should say, as he was coming down, his brakes began to fail. To the point where his brakes no longer worked. And he ended up through that wall into somebody's front garden. Okay, we've reached the bottom of the struggle now, and we're going to turn left to show you around Ambleside. So here we are, coming through Ambleside. Everything you could possibly want you'll find in Ambleside. From new clothing, tea rooms, fish shops, guest houses, hotels, pubs, banks, bookshops. Ambleside is somewhat classed as the outdoor capital of the lakes, because from here you can go everywhere, you can do everything. You can get yourself down to Windermere, you can get yourself across to Langdale or Coniston, and it also has the nightlife for you, should that be something that you're interested in. Sheer in amongst the hub of it all. But it's not the built-up area that you would expect to find in, say, Windermere and Bowness. It's kind of a halfway house, in my opinion, of just enough to do on a night. Not absolutely packed, crammed full of guest houses and nightclubs and everything. So Ambleside's quite a nice place. It's called the one-way circuit here, where you can go around. There is parking to be had. There's municipal car parks, there's 1 hour waiting on the sides of the road, so you'll need a disc if you're going to park for the 1 hour waiting anyhow. So that's sort of it. That's Ambleside for you. Good old cotton traders outlet shop. I've spent quite a few pounds in that shop. So there we have it. As you can see, it's a little village. Well, in my opinion, it's a little village anyhow. Some people may call it a town. Okay, heading out of Ambleside now. And making our way towards Grasmere. I had my honeymoon in Grasmere, so it's got an awful lot to answer for. I'll never forgive it. So even from Ambleside to Keswick, you're only talking 16 miles. So it's a nice little ride out. Again, in some amazing scenery. It's just... it's spellbinding to me. It doesn't matter whether you're at the bottom looking up or the top looking down. You can't fail to be impressed by the pure beauty of the Lake District. And very soon, when we get to Keswick and we go down through Borrowdale, we're going to be going to the top to look down, as we have been just at Kirkston there. We're now coming to Rydale, or Rydal, depending upon how you'd wish to pronounce it. Again, a couple of little guest houses that you can stay in. And up in Rydal Hall, there's a tea room. And there we have Rydal Water. And Rydal Water, near as damn it, butts up to Grasmere. Oh, there he is. There's the ice cream man. He's always there, so if you want to stop off at the car park as you're going round and have an ice cream, there's your man. It's gorgeous stuff, actually. And just around this bend, we will come up to Grasmere. There are boats you can hire from that side over there, so you can find yourself on Grasmere. Lovely walk around it as well. So we're going to have a little look around Grasmere. Even smaller than Ambleside. It's really quaint. My own personal opinion, I like Grasmere. There are a number of areas in the lakes that I like. Ambleside has a lot going on an evening. Grasmere doesn't tend to have. Some lovely little shops in Grasmere. great for souvenirs. Some nice tea rooms. There's even a garden centre. And it's the home of Grasmere gingerbread. So as we come round here, there you have the little house of Grasmere gingerbread. It's more scrummy than a scrummy thing, with every reason to be scrummy. Heaton Cooper Studio, I've got an awful lot of those prints on my wall. Beautiful watercolours, beautiful. But you can see Grasmere really is just a couple of roads. It's a one that goes right the way around it, or through it, and there's a one which dissects on the loop there, where there's a couple of little shops as well. But there's been many a day that I've sat just in a little green back there, watching low-flying RAF jets scream through the valley. I just love it. I've even seen Hercules come through, and they just sound amazing as they come through the valley, the Hercules aircraft. And that was Grasmere. As you can see, a lovely little quaint place to stop. So we'll head off now towards Keswick. And if you can remember when we were in Patterdale, Glenridding area, I stopped and said, and there we have in the distance Helvellyn. We're now the other side of Helvellyn. It's just over there to the right. It's not that one that we're looking at now, but it's behind that one. So again you can see, as we've come down Ullswater, that valley, we're now going through another valley. So there we are, just up there, that's Helvellyn. So we can see we're on the other side now. Dropping down. Into Thirlmere. Oh, a little bit earlier, again I was talking about, they were thinking about taking water from Ullswater and pumping it to Manchester to keep up with the demand for water, and that hasn't happened yet. Well, from Thirlmere, they do. Water from here is pumped all the way to Manchester so that they can keep up with the demand for water. So that's what we have there, is Thirlmere, which is pumped all the way to Manchester. It's full at the moment. Sure, there could be the odd foot or two could still go in, but I've seen it to the point where it's been nearly empty, and quite shockingly empty, which displays the steepness of the sides and the depth of it. But Thelmere itself, it's a nice lake to walk round. And there's another road on the other side of here as well, where if you wanted to take that route round you can, and it brings you out at the other end and just gives you a different route. But there's the pumping station. From there, that's where the water goes all the way to Manchester. It's phenomenal, isn't it? It's amazing. Done in the Victorian times, I believe, although I'm sure if somebody knows anything different they'll tell me. But as you look at that lake there ain't no problem with hosepipe bands in this part of the world. And at the end of this, there's a little car park on the left. And it's another location that sells ice cream. Not that I've got a passion for ice cream, you understand. I just love the stuff. Which is why I might know where all the little vans and trucks and everything are, where you can help yourself to a fantastic ice cream. Not your Mr. Whippy stuff, but your proper Lakeland ice cream. Yep, he's there. There he is. Stop me and buy one. Real dairy ice cream. So let's continue together. And as we crest the brow, we're now going to drop down into Keswick. In the distance there you've got Bassenthwaite Lake, and that's where we'll eventually come to the end of the tour, where we get back onto the A66. But Keswick and Borrowdale I absolutely love. In fact, I don't think there's many places in the Lake District I don't love. But you've got Capbells across there to the left, Derwentwater, that's where we're going to be heading. Skiddaw up there. And Keswick is fantastic. Galleries, tea rooms, all the walking shops, souvenir shops, pubs, inns, restaurants, everything you could possibly want for your Lake District experience to base yourself. There's a lot of car parks as well in the Keswick region, but it depends on what time of year you're going to come here as to how many car parking spaces there are. But a lot of the car parks have regions, areas for bikes, specific areas, so I wouldn't worry too much about being able to park your bike and go and have a look around. But as we come round the outskirts of Keswick, We're now going to start to go down into Borrowdale. See the size of that car park there, it's just huge. I love Borrowdale. It's a community in itself, you know. A bit like Los Angeles, that phrase, what goes on in Borrowdale stays in Borrowdale. And I'm going to show you a view from a place called Surprise View. It's just above Asness Bridge, which must be the most photographed bridge in the world. There's an awful lot of people over here who will take you on a photography course and teach you how to use your camera. And I will guarantee they'll bring you to Asness Bridge for that photograph to make memories. But I'm not too sure whether they know about Surprise View. Because I've never seen any of them base themselves there to take photography that is simply breathtaking. But I'm going to take you there. You have to come here, sit yourself down on this view and contemplate the world. For me, it's the best view in Britain. Not Wastwater. No, that's not the best view in Britain. This is. And we're going to be there very soon. So we're just going down by the side of Derwentwater now. Over there to your right is Catbells, but you'll see more of that when we get to the view. So you turn left off that road down from into Borrowdale to a place called Wattenlath. We're not going to go that far up, but that's the road that you need to take. And you can see, or hopefully you can judge, the steepness of this. And funnily enough, one of the places where you can base yourself is up here. So let's go and see the view. A view to simply take your breath away. Just look at that. This is the Surprise View, where over there we've got Skiddaw, Bassingthwaite in the distance, and Catbells. And we're about, I would say, 800 to 1,000 feet up. So, having left Surprise View, we're heading back now down to the Borrowdale Road. And if you don't come up to see Surprise View, you've missed out on a tremendous opportunity. Just going to go back over Ashness Bridge. And that's the view from Ashness Bridge. As you can see, nowhere near as spectacular as Surprise View. Derwent Water in front, so turning left after we've come down the hill. We're going to continue now. The next little village that we're going to come across is Grange in Borrowdale. And there's a young, let's say 15-year-old. There was a book that was published called First Blood. And I read it. And even as a 15-year-old, I thought to myself, this has got to be made into a film. And lo and behold, some 20 years later, I think, Sylvester Stallone made it into a film called First Blood. Maybe I had the bug for making films even 30 odd years ago. But I remember it as vividly. I could even probably take you to the bedroom that I was in when I was reading it. Look at that for a cliff face. Woohoo! Didn't I tell you were going to see some amazing places? Some of the times within the Borrowdale Valley, there's been some rather interesting rainfall. And that interesting rainfall has produced levels of Derwent water to the point where the hedge is there in front and the walls we've just passed, the water is deeper than that. And this whole area just floods. If you're looking to have somewhere that gets flooded when it rains, you're talking about Borrowdale. And that's where we're heading. We're heading up there. That's where this takes us. We're heading now between Keswick down Borrowdale towards Buttermere. But on Buttermere itself, or should I say on the way to Buttermere, you have England's only working slate mine. And it has a tragic story which I'll explain the further we get up towards the mine. There's the start of the climb, which takes us on a 1 in 4 climb to the slate mine. Well, the slate mine itself dates back hundreds of years, and they've still got some old photographs. And it fell into, I suppose, decline and collapse 20 odd years ago, and Tarmac had it. And they used to take the slate out, and they realised that it wasn't a viable proposition. The mine itself was bought by a guy called Mark Weir, who was a helicopter pilot, and he flew over here with his grandfather, wondering why it was no longer working, because his grandfather used to work here and his uncle. And so he had a meeting with Tarmac over a cafetiere of coffee, and he found himself leaving there the owner of a slate mine. Well, he opened it as a visitor attraction. Well, he bought it initially for what was on the outside, thinking he could make a living from that. And then it was discovered inside that there were seams of rock and slate that could make it viable again. But he also turned it into a visitor attraction. And he worked day and night to make it successful. I first met Mark about 6 years ago, in 2006, and we produced a marketing video for him, and then went on to produce a full documentary DVD called A Privilege to Walk. Following on from that, he produced a series of further visitor attractions called Via Ferrata, where they climb up the side of the hillside, which you're going to see soon. But also a zip wire. And a documentary was produced about him. Now, Honister itself had been brought out from the depths of depression, employing local people where there was no work, resurrecting a business where there was no business. And he worked selfishly, day in, day out, to make it a success. Tragically, in 2011, he took off with his helicopter, because that's how he used to travel, in an ex-military Gazelle helicopter. And about 200 meters away from the helicopter pad he has here, the helicopter crashed, and he was killed. Now, the documentary showed an awful lot of things which made my blood boil as to how he was dealt with by the Lake District National Park and a couple of others that just would not let him make a success of this. They just pushed him into the ground. And that's it there. This is Honister Slate Mine. Now, with up here, up there, that's where the mine is, in amongst all of that. Hundreds of feet down into the rock, because they came in from the top. And as they came in further and further, they found more slate, which enabled them to extract it and make a business from it. But it's such a tragic story of a man who, through vision, produced a business that thousands of people have been round since on the mine tour and have just been blown away by the history and heritage and the passion of Honister. And you can go on a mine tour. But if you ever see the documentary, you'll see just how much he was driven into the ground. Such a bloody shame. So as we leave Honister and head now down towards Buttermere, There really are some amazing mountains here. Mountains that will test anybody's fitness in this world. Mountains that would test the skills of anybody's climbing ability. But which also gives a backdrop to the landscape which is just an amazing sight. We're now heading towards Buttermere. Now there is a tale, a bit of a ghost story, that goes back to the days of the Roman legions. And that is that people have seen and heard Roman legions marching. But it's on the far side. It's not this side of Buttermere, but the far side. But strangely enough, when they're marching, you can only see the top half of the body, from just below the waist apparently. You can't see the legs at all. Which must mean that somewhere on the far side of this lake, there has to be a Roman road. Now personally I've never seen it. But who's to say it isn't true? So maybe you could get here at the dusk, get your binoculars out and start scanning the far side to see if you can see that Roman legion marching along the far side of the lake. Or maybe you'll hear them. So as we come to the edge of Buttermere, and before we would head off to Crummerquarter, we're turning right into Newlands Valley, which takes us back towards Keswick and Penrith and the A66. Now at that point you can continue further on through Lawton and up into Cockermouth, but by turning right and heading back towards Keswick, again we're going to see some magnificent scenery, which we will be coming up to very shortly. So just the other side of these mountains on the right, that's where Hollister is. So again we're coming up into a valley, and this is called Newlands Valley. Which has an interesting road on the way up, or coming down, whichever way you want to come round on this. And here we are at the head of Newlands Valley. You've got a magnificent waterfall there that when it rains, it's just stunning. Scree slopes up there which are just spellbinding. And here we have Newlands Valley. How fantastic. You turn the bend and you're in another world. A world that's greener, not as dramatic as Borrowdale, but has its own majestic appeal about it. And the mountain at the end is Skiddaw, which is on the head of Keswick. Now as we come towards the end of the tour, I hope you've enjoyed the scenery that we've seen, some of the views we've experienced. It's really well worth taking out a couple of 3 hours if you're going to do it in one fell swoop, or just take your time. There is no rush. Take in the majestic scenery. Soak up the atmosphere in one of the most spectacular regions of Britain. And I hope that in some way this film has enabled you to experience this to the point where you are going to want to come and ride the route yourself. But as we come into Braithwaite, it's entirely up to you what you want to do now. If you want to turn right and head back towards Penrith, you can turn left and head off towards Cockermouth and the Western Lake District. You can go back into Keswick, you can do whatever you like. You can even do the route the other way around, which will give you a different experience. But most of all, I've thoroughly enjoyed producing this tour for you. I feel as if it's what I was born to do. And please look at the other tours in the area. Experience them too. And until we meet again, bye bye for now.